Good evening and welcome to Overcomers Talk. I am your host, Minister Carrie Ann Zamore Frazier, and I am so excited about the guest that we have tonight. None other than a community leader. We're talking to Tina Capito. She holds so many titles and so many positions. I would be happy to share just a few of them with you. She is the immediate past president of CASA, court-appointed special advocates. She's also the operations director of Garden of Hope, which is a foster group home right here in Central Texas. And she is also the president of Educated Angels. You have to stay tuned and you have to come back at 7 o'clock to hear a voice in the community with Tina Capito. Make sure you tune in at 7 o'clock. time for Overcomers Talk. We're talking to real people with real issues, overcoming life situations one day at a time. Let's talk it out. Good evening and welcome to Overcomers Talk. I am so excited that you have joined us tonight. Don't forget, every Thursday at 7 o'clock, Overcomers Talk. I'm excited about the guest that we have tonight. But before I introduce the guest, I want to give honor to where honor is due. And that is the visionaries of the Overcomers Talk. That's none other than Senior Pastor, Mr. Senior Pastor. I'm so sorry, Pastor. That is Dr. Apostle Pastor Lincoln Coffee.
Amen. Praise God. It's all right.
What was that, Mister? Where did that come from?
That's all right, Minister. It's okay. All is well. Praise God.
Thank you. And then in her absence, Assistant Pastor, First Lady April Coffee. We miss you, First Lady.
Amen.
And then our co-host, Minister Jeffries, is not with us tonight either. But we are also joined with an amazing guest. She's a community leader. She is none other than Tina Capito. And then if you look down here, you're going to see all of her titles of all of her agencies because she is that amazing. Tina, thank you so much for being here.
It is my pleasure. I don't think I'm that amazing. I think I'm surrounded by wonderful people who help make things happen.
Oh, you're so sweet,
Amen.
but you really are
Wow.
amazing.
I'm really surrounded by good people.
Okay, she's surrounded by good people.
Yes, yes.
Wonderful.
Is it okay if I do a little bit of your intro, your bio, and just kind of tell people the agencies that you have
Okay.
worked with? And so Tina has been with KISD for how many years?
11 years now.
11 years with the Killeen Independent School District, and she is the district transition specialist. And I would say that your background is special education.
It is 22 years in special education.
22 years in special education. So for those of you looking, if you have a child who is part of KISD who has special needs or is part of special education, or if you know someone, definitely tune into this show because there will be some resources that Tina will be talking about that could be afforded to you that you may not already know about. Tina, let me see what else. Educated Angels. You are the president, one of the founders of
Yes.
Educated Angels. Is that
I
correct?
I am.
Awesome. And you will find out more about what Educated Angels is. And then you are also the director of operations of Garden of Hope.
I am. Yes.
Okay, this is just 3 positions so far. I told you she was amazing. And you are the immediate past president of CASA, which is Court Appointed Special Advocates.
Yes.
And you were the president for how long?
I was the president for 2 years.
Okay, and you've been with CASA for how long?
I've been with CASA for going on 4.
Going on 4 years. Awesome, awesome. Thank you for everything you do in the community because I did say all of these titles, but I also know that there's a lot more that you do serving on different boards and commissions and committees to essentially improve and strengthen our community.
Absolutely.
So thank you for everything you do and thank you for joining us here on Overcomers Talk.
It's my pleasure to be here.
I'm so
Amen.
excited. We're going to
Amen.
get so many nuggets from her today, Pastor. But I think first we want to find out what all of these organizations do.
Yes.
What are they and what they do?
Yeah.
Right?
I just want to say I'm very excited about today's, especially because of the Garden of Hope.
Yes.
Yes.
We've recently connected to Garden of Hope, Open Fire International Fellowship, is connected to Garden of Hope as one of the sponsors.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so I'm excited to know more about the
Yes.
Garden of Hope, to share that particular information with the church and let let persons who are watching know what we're connected to, and you are the one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Amen. Praise
I'm
God.
the one surrounded by good people.
Amen. Amen.
Would you like to start with the Garden of Hope and definitely tell us?
It's
I think that's a great place to
yes,
start. I think that's a
yes.
great place because I know the Garden of Hope is doing so much in our community. And so, Tina, if you would tell us a little bit about the Garden of Hope, how it got started, and then
Okay.
what is your role there?
So, Garden of Hope is an emergency foster care shelter that houses children from 0 to 90 days who are misplaced or taken out of their home from CPS due to abuse and neglect. It was started a couple of years ago by Mr. and Mrs. Ocasio, and they are amazing. They have fostered over 90 children in their own home, and they have adopted over 16 children.
Oh, wow.
And so they had this mission and this passion to develop a home that could take sibling groups, because oftentimes those sibling groups are they're split up because the foster home may be able to take 1 or 2 or maybe even 3, but those foster families sometimes cannot take 5 and 6 siblings. And so the mission of Garden of Hope is not only to take in those children, but to keep those sibling groups together. And so about 2.5 years ago, I got a phone call from someone. They said, "Hey, Tina, the board president and the treasurer resigned and they want you to step up." And I was like, oh my goodness. I was literally at that time probably on about 9 boards. And I said, I just can't. I said, I had supported through Educated Angels. We had supported through the community stuff. That was around the time of the hurricane. We had donated some of the excess things to the shelters in the area. And I just said, I really can't. And so later that evening, I got another call. Someone said, "Hey, Tina, and I was like, you got to be kidding me, like 2 unrelated people." And the next morning, I got my 3rd phone call. I said, "Okay, God, obviously you said get up, get dressed, and go over there," because I had been trying to say no. And the 3rd person called, and I said, "Well, I think it's time." And so I went over, and Mr. Ocasio, bless his heart, had this wonderful vision and not a clue how to do it. And he just had a vision, and he was following his faith, and he just knew. And he will tell you he is surrounded by good people who have helped make this come to fruition.
Amen.
And so now the 2nd facility just opened. We're very excited. It's located here in Killeen. I won't give you the address. We kind of keep that
because that's confidential.
It's confidential.
So we talk about 2 facilities. The first facility opened 2 years ago.
It did.
And now you have a 2nd facility.
Yes.
And these are all CPS children.
Yes.
What ages do you, is this all for teenagers? Is this like a teenage group home?
It's birth to 17.
So you can have newborns.
We can. We've had an 8-month-old.
Oh,
we haven't had a newborn, but we can take birth to 17.
Wow. Wow.
That is a blessing.
Yeah.
It is. It is very much a blessing. And so we're blessed that we're not only able to help take in children, but we will create about between 30 and 50 jobs in Central Texas with this new facility, with direct care staff, case managers, just people who will need to help run the facilities. And so we also think that we're giving back to the community and that we're able to provide employment for others.
Wow.
This is actually great because I've worked here locally in the Metroplex for 4 years as a ER physician.
Mm-hmm.
And we've come across these situations
Mm-hmm.
where parents has to be separated from their child for whatever reason, and so to know that this resource is right there immediately available,
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
and it's actually up new and coming. It gives an major outlet with the proper connection again,
Yeah.
surrounded by the right people, knowing that it's available. I think that's a great resource because that's an outlet.
It is.
That's an outlet because it's nothing like being in the emergency room and you have to separate the family because of whatever reason, and then what happened to the children?
Yeah.
What happened to that now that lonely that brother or the sister that doesn't have anywhere? But this is great.
Yeah.
This is great for a person to hear that it's available.
It is. And there are different ways people can really connect with us.
Okay.
There are ways that they can volunteer. I have this big mission in my head, and I've been working on it. It's like in my head, and I'm praying it comes together, is to have different churches and different organizations, and everyone just donate 1 item per month to Garden of Hope. And so, like, let's say your church donates toiletry items. Another church does board games. Another church does socks and underwear. And each organization just does one thing. We don't tap any one organization out, but rather we build a community to take care of these children.
Yeah. Wow.
And so that's really what the mission is over this next 12 months. The community is very kind to us, but I have a big saying of a purposeful ask. If you don't ask purposefully, people will give but it may not even be what you need.
Right.
And so if you ask purposefully, I'm able to ask exactly what it is we need to serve the needs of these children. And so that's what we're really striving for this next 12 months.
That's
Awesome,
good.
awesome.
That's
So I know
good.
in talking to you, one of the things that you mentioned was definitely toiletries,
Yes.
not toothbrushes.
Oh, no, we have toothbrushes. Smile doctors is wonderful too.
Smile doctors is
Yes, they're
wonderful.
wonderful. We
So,
can
but
get
we're
all
talk-
of them we need.
But you need like toothpaste, deodorant, soap.
Oh, yeah.
What else? So you talk about the basic things that
Yeah.
because the children they don't come with toiletries. They don't come
Sometimes they do and sometimes they
with,
don't.
sometimes they don't. Okay.
I will say that sometimes people will ask me, well, why do you need stuff? The state pays for it.
Right.
What the state pays for is the direct care staff and the staff to operate the facility and the building or the lights and utilities. What doesn't get covered with that funding is those extras or those birthday presents or Christmas gifts or those art supplies. We go through enough art supplies. we could probably keep Hobby Lobby in business. But you need activities for those kids to do.
Yeah.
And so we go through a lot of those things, but those are things that come outside the budget. And so, especially with COVID, we've chose to do virtual learning. And with virtual learning comes additional staff that we were not previously having to pay for.
Budgeted for, yes.
And so now you have to pay a staff in the daytime to be able to do virtual learning. And so that has really taxed the budget as well. But it's for the safety of the kids and also for the safety of the teachers in the community because our kids are coming in and out of different places. And right now, we just didn't feel it was safe, and we want to be good community partners. And so we pretty much keep the kids at the shelter unless we go to the park or hiking or somewhere where we can safely go without exposing them or them to anyone else.
Wow.
good.
Wow. That sounds like such an awesome mission. And if you are interested in being a part of giving to Garden of Hope, Open Fire International Fellowship Church serves as a sponsor in toiletries. That is your deodorants, toothpaste, what else? Shower gels and baths and lotions and soap. And so if you are interested in giving, you can bring your donation right here to Open Fire International Church at 1801 Rancier, or you can give on Cash App, and please make a notation to purchase for Garden of Hope specifically so that Open Fire can continue to be a sponsor for the children at Garden of Hope. That is such good information, Tina. Thank you. And you Pastor, segued right into when we talk about COVID, how has that really impacted the children there? Because, children are coming in and out. We talk about that isolation.
It does. It affects them tremendously because they don't get to go do activities. 2 years ago or a year ago before COVID hit, the community is so kind. Our community is wonderful. If there was a step show going on or if there was a carnival or anything going on, people would donate tickets to us.
Right.
So then we could take the kids and give them that normalcy and take them to the movies and take them to different things. And now they really just have to stay at the shelter. And so you can think how all those kids stuck inside the shelter, they kind of wear on each other. It gets hard. And so we were very blessed. A couple weeks ago, we had a donation from someone and we were able to rent out the movie theater. And the kids got to go to the movie theater without exposing to anyone else. And I did not realize it was cheaper than I thought. It was actually only about $130 to send 20 kids to the movies.
Oh, wow.
Yes, I did. I would have never even thought
great
about that. Yeah.
Information.
That is
Yeah.
really good information.
That's
Wow,
good.
okay.
That's
And
good.
Peaceable Kingdom has been very kind to us over the summer. They let us rent the pool and go swimming where nobody else was there. So we're just having to really do isolated activities and really just with the population that we serve. Primarily because if we get COVID, it shuts everybody down.
Yeah.
I mean, then we have to test all the staff. We have to test all the kids. We stop movement. Kids can't come in and out. And we just really want to try to have the safety of everyone.
When you say test all the staff and kids, so do you have a physician on staff that comes to visit the children and
We
make sure
don't.
everybody is safe?
We don't at this time. We currently take children to the doctor's appointments or to a clinic to get the appointments. And so we're looking for maybe a nurse practitioner or a doctor who would be connected to a doctor's office who could bill with Medicaid to be able to provide that service and come to us, because you have to think that we have to transport all those kids. And then that takes manpower and that takes resources and it becomes very difficult. And if you get a sibling group or if you get a couple kids at one time, you have 3 days to get them seen by a doctor.
Oh,
So
wow.
we are on the hustle sometimes trying to get kids seen. And
Yeah.
so it is difficult. And so we're very blessed that Medicaid does pick those expenses up, but we need to get connected with someone to be able to do that so we could at one facility be able to see the children and not have to take them to a doctor's office and do all
Right.
those other things.
Wow.
There's, I believe, as we're here talking, there's a lot of people that's watching now who
Absolutely.
really wants to help and wants to
Mm-hmm.
make a difference in our community.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a good time to really just, like you said, the things that you specifically need, because not just to give, but to give specifically to the need.
Yeah.
Because simply like volunteering to take the kids from the shelter to the hospital on your day off,
Mm-hmm.
that's to hire someone to keep someone overtime. So there's so many ways I feel like the community can help,
Absolutely.
and the best person to hear from is you.
Yeah.
I think
Well-
you're right here today. I mean, I think that the best way person can get a hold of you, or to say, okay, Miss Tina, how can I help?
Yeah.
I want to help,
Mhm.
and that's what I know you want to hear, somebody who's willing to help.
Yes.
I'm like,
Yes.
okay, what can I do to
Mhm.
help?
Mm-hmm.
I love children. I want to be a part of this. I've
Mhm.
heard your heart, and I want to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if someone is interested in volunteering at Garden of Hope or being a sponsor, serving in any capacity,
Mhm.
how can they get a hold of someone at Garden of Hope? If you would just say the information, as soon as you say it, it's going to appear right there below you.
Wow, that's pretty fabulous. It's like you say it and it happens.
Amen.
They can actually email us at office at gohctx.com. Or they can go on our website and click contact us is another great way to get in touch with us. And someone's always monitoring those emails to respond very quickly.
Oh.
And most people know how to get a hold of me. My phone number is all over the community.
It is all over the community.
And that's okay. I tell people, even if I can connect you with something that I don't do,
Mhm.
I think our purpose is to give back and to help one another.
Yes, and that you're definitely doing through Garden of Hope. And so you have the information if you're interested in serving as a volunteer, a sponsor, or in any capacity at Garden of Hope. Make sure you check out their Facebook page, which will be right here, right now. Or you can also email them at the office email right here, right now, if you're interested in Garden of Hope. Tina, thank you so much. And so we definitely want to talk about everything that's happening in the community as it relates to children.
Yes.
And so we talked about the children. And so I really want to talk about children with disabilities, particularly. Does Garden of Hope accept any children with disabilities?
We do.
Okay.
One of the great things about this new facility is that it's ADA compliant, and we are now able to take children in wheelchairs. We take children who are intellectually disabled.
Oh, wow.
We have a hearing impaired child with us. And so we're taking autistic children because there's not always a home for them.
Mhm.
Sometimes people won't take children that have a disability. Really, the only children that we're unable to take at this time, and I say at this time because I believe God has a greater purpose and that there will be expansion of Garden of Hope again, is we don't take children who have had any sexual either abuse or if they have been an abuser.
Mhm.
And that's primarily not because we don't want to help, but when you have young children and you have older children, we just can't mix the
Right.
populations for the safety of everyone.
For the safety.
Right.
Mhm. And the other population that we typically don't take is runners. Where our location is in Colleen, if they ran out that door, they would be on a really busy street. And
Yeah.
so runners is just something we want to make sure that we would have a safer building for.
Okay.
So
Okay.
how,
Awesome.
the screening process, saying that, so the screening process have to be specific
It
in
does.
the sense of to
For children in each room. Let's say all the boys' rooms are filled. We may not be able to take another boy just
I
because of
understand.
demographics. I mean, so we have to really vet to make sure it's a good fit for the facility, that we have the space based on gender, that we have also the ratio. If a child is under 5, they count as 2 children in ratio. Also, if, their older kids are younger, sometimes you just have to make sure you're, putting a good group kind of together because
Yeah.
they do live together 24 hours a day.
Yes, and they have to get along at some level.
At some level, they have to get along.
Okay.
Yes.
I know as the
Wow,
district
that's good,
transition
that's good.
specialist, you've worked with special needs population, your experience is 22 years. And so how would you say that COVID, not just at Garden of Hope, but in the district on a whole, how has that impacted children
Yeah.
with special needs in terms of resources?
Well, I think not only the district, just the community as a
Mhm.
whole. There are lots of agencies, but they're mainly working virtually right now. You have agencies such as Central County Services and Texas Workforce, different agencies, but they're working virtually right now because of COVID. Some of our special needs families, they may not have technology, or they may not have the ability or know-how to reach out. A few years ago, I started a special needs transition fair, and it was where we brought all of the community agencies, anyone who served children with special needs, together in one place. We did it at Texas A&M a couple of years, so that families could come. And I will tell you, I was so frustrated because I could not figure out how to get a hold of different agencies, and I couldn't get them on the phone, and I couldn't figure out how to connect with those services. And then I think, okay, here I am. I'm pretty active in the community. I've been in special ed for over 20 years, and I can't figure it out. How does a mom who has a new special needs child, or how does a mom who is overwhelmed and frustrated, and how does she figure out, or a dad or a family figure out how to access those services?
Yeah.
Wow.
And in our community, we've really got to do a better job of serving them. We have Fort Hood here, and because of Fort Hood, we have more special needs children in our community than most other places. And we need to provide services. We need to have outlets. We need to have support groups. We need to have things for these families so that they know where to go and they know how to access it.
Yeah.
And COVID has just made it a little harder.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
made
On
it a
top of
little
what,
harder.
what it was already.
It was already hard.
Oh.
It was already challenging, and now it's even more
Absolutely.
challenging.
Yes.
But then you talk about the isolation in the home with a child who's special needs with minimal resources.
Yes.
So I think one of the things that we've also seen is an increase in Child Protective Services cases.
Yes.
Of a lot more reports of abuse and harm to
Yes.
children.
Frustrated.
Yeah,
It is.
frustrated
It
parents.
is. And you want to provide services, and we try to reach out, and I've tried to post a lot of things on social media, because if I can help just a couple of families, I'll feel successful, but it's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what are some innovative resources out there for parents who just need to reach out to somebody? Is there a place that they can go and just find some information for special needs children right now?
Well, there's an agency called Hochtel, and they're
Okay.
kind of like a hub of information they gather. Colleen does a great job. They have a parent resource room, and you can reach out to their parent educators. I also, between Belton, Temple, Cove, and Colleen, some of the transition specialists, we're trying to put our resources together because we really serve similar families, or they all live within this area in Central Texas. And so we're trying to get that information out there. So when you see something for a special needs family, share it. You don't know who you may help.
And I do have one thing, because our viewership is really all over the nation and different parts of the world. If someone is struggling with a special needs child, what should they do to reach out for help?
Well, always reach out to your school districts. The school districts have a lot of resources. And one thing I will always tell everyone, because I've taught in Germany, I've taught in Texas, and I've taught in Colorado, in different states from moving around when I was a former military spouse, is that every school system has different resources based on the population. So it may not always look the same, but go and ask. You have to advocate. I'm so sorry.
That is okay. That's how busy she is. The telephone is ringing.
And so you just go ask. But also there are your workforce centers. So Texas is called the Texas Workforce Center, but there's workforce centers in all
Nationwide,
states.
yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And, just also Social Security offices and different agencies. Those public agencies will help. And I tell families, get connected. Do you know that the wait list right now for a family to get housing is for a child with a disability? So let's say you have a child, maybe they have Down syndrome, or they are intellectually disabled. Of course, as a parent, eventually you will get older and unable to care for that child. The wait list right now is 20 years long.
Oh,
Wow.
And so usually families start thinking when they're in high school, it's time to start looking into this. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. And I can't get and so not only are they looking into that or not looking into it, they don't think about it till high school.
Right.
So now,
Wow.
if they really don't start at kindergarten,
Yeah.
they're not going to get placed until they're 30, 35 years old.
Yeah. Yeah. So what I hear you saying is if you have a child who has special needs, then you need to start looking into those adult resources
Absolutely.
from early childhood.
Yes.
Because
absolutely.
the resources are that lacking,
They are.
essentially.
Yes.
And then COVID has, I guess, tripled or even doubled the challenges
Yes.
that families have had. Yes, Pastor.
How do you we're in a military town.
Mhm.
How do you handle or do you get an influx or of military families?
We do.
Because of we're in where
The
we
military
are.
exceptional family members, and so they can go through that program to get connected. But I tell families, go ahead and get on the list now. Doesn't matter if it's Texas. I will tell you personally, if I had a child with a disability and the wait list was 20 years long, in 20 years, you may come back to Fort Hood 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah.
Get on the Fort Hood list.
It doesn't matter. Well, the Texas list,
Texas
yes.
list.
And I will say, let's say I was living somewhere else and an opportunity came up for my child, we may choose to move.
Right.
Because if that was going to be the quality of life for my child lifelong, we may have to make those decisions.
Right.
So
Right.
give yourself options. Just sign up. Just reach out. And early, there's early childhood intervention, ECI. That usually starts at the doctor's office. If you're concerned about your child having a disability or not quite sure, reach out to the doctor and say, I think maybe we're autistic or we have a learning or something. We're just not sure, so that they can connect you with those early childhood resources.
Awesome. Good information. And I think before we take our break, Tina, what about individuals who have children who and those children have an IEP, may have an IEP, and they are middle school or high school age currently, and they're struggling with the virtual learning at home?
So we have to break down IEP because
IEP. I'm going to let Tina break that down. That's an individual education plan.
Yes.
That children with special needs will oftentimes have an individual education plan
It-
because
okay.
they have been
And
identified.
those are across all states. So it's
Yeah.
not specific to
It's
here. It's not,
nationwide.
yes, it's not specific to anywhere. It's a legal document. I will say.
I'm sorry. And oftentimes with an IEP, there's extra help that comes in the classroom. And that's if they're actually going face to face. With COVID, a lot of people have opted for virtual.
They have. They're still providing services virtually.
Okay.
But I will also tell you, and this is not going to be a popular statement, and I know that. Think about what does your child really need?
Yeah.
Sometimes we're over accommodating for children. They want they're going to say they're going to read everything to the child at school, or they're going to have someone help them in small group settings. As they're getting older, because you asked for middle school and high school, think about when they leave school, those services are no longer available.
Yeah.
They don't just all of a sudden say, oh, I'm on an IEP, because you didn't know what that was, because education's maybe not your thing.
Right.
So you haven't heard of it as an adult. There isn't anything. When you go from an IEP and you graduate high school, you go to ADA.
Yeah.
And that's your federal laws of Americans with Disabilities Act. So those IEP services are not always available later.
Yeah. The employer is not going to read directions.
That's
to
right.
Your child.
Absolutely. And people, they don't always like when I say that, but I always say, think about making your child as independent as possible. And I'm not saying it's easy, but they've got to have a strategy, or they've got to have some way to overcome that. They have to be able to survive in our communities nationwide, no matter where you live, even if they have a disability. Now, maybe that means they're connected to services, or maybe that looks different for every child. But just think about how much help are you wanting the school to give?
Yeah.
And not that I don't want children to get help at school. I mean, special ed is my heart. But I also want to see children are smart. And they're resilient, and they know how to overcome when an adult believes in them.
Yeah.
When you give them and you empower them, children are able to do things more than you think. And so I always challenge parents, let's see what they can do first. Doesn't mean that they have to be at the top of their class. Doesn't mean that they have an A. I would rather my child get a C independently than an A with somebody's help. Because, like you said, there's no employer going to sit next to them to read the directions.
Read the directions.
That's
to
right.
them.
They're more
Yeah.
equipped. Yes,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
wonderful.
And I think what you say, oftentimes when parents have children who are disabled, we sometimes enable and handicap them even more by
Absolutely.
trying to do everything for them.
I'm all about telling parents, I appreciate it, but stop being super mom.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think moms and dads want to do so much for their child and they want to take all the challenges away, but their challenges make them unique. Their challenges make
Yes.
them who they are.
Mhm.
And some of those kids are brilliant in other ways, and you have to allow them the opportunity to show their strengths and what are their
Yes.
superpowers. And so don't overparent, don't overcompensate for those kids. They are capable.
And again, not zoning on only the weakness,
Mhm.
but
Absolutely.
also search out the strength.
Find
Yes.
their strengths.
Yes.
That's good, Pastor.
Wonderful.
Definitely find
Wonderful.
their
Yes.
strengths. Well, we have been talking to Tina Capito, and she is the KISD transition specialist, and she's also the director. I have to look because there's just so many titles. She's also the operations director of Garden at Hope. And the first half, we've been talking to Tina Capito, and she's been giving us nuggets. I want you to stay tuned because when we come back, Tina is going to give some practical applications, just a few practical applications of what you can do as a parent of a special needs child, whether it's having them boil water or iron their shirt. We're going to talk about some practical applications before we go into Educated Angels as well as CASA. Make sure you stay tuned. We will be right back. And welcome back to Overcomers Talk. Again, I am your host, Minister Carrie Ann Zamore Frazier, and we're talking to a voice in the community, and that is one of our community leaders here in Central Texas. We're talking to Tina Capito. When we left off, Tina was talking about special needs children, and essentially, you parents out there, of special needs children, some of the resources that can be afforded to you, particularly some practical applications on what to do with your children. Listen, don't get offended. She did the same thing for me. And I can tell you, years ago, she really hurt my feelings because as many of you know, I am raising a special needs young adult. And so I really thank you, Tina, for speaking into my life. You've been in my son's life since he was 9 years old, and he's now 21. And with your help, I got a lot of practical applications where he's actually keeping a full-time job, and he's a freshman in college. So I really, really thank you for that. So when I tell you that this lady is amazing and she has tons of wonderful resources, she really does. And so if you're speaking to a parent, Tina, who is raising a child who is in middle school or high school, essentially preparing them for adulthood, what are some practical applications that you can give to them as they are spending this lovely time during COVID with their children?
Okay. So I won't hurt their feelings like I did yours. I'll
You
try.
really did hurt my feelings.
I'm sorry, but I love you and I love Andrew. And you were being super mom. You were trying to do too much.
I was doing too much.
And I appreciate
I
parents.
was a helicopter mom. I was hovering.
Woo! I
did. I
Back
was
up,
terrorizing
back up.
the teachers and the schools.
Oh, she was horrible. She was horrible. But you know, I think the best advice I can give any parent with a child with a disability, and really just parents, is do what you do.
Yeah.
And I say that because you set an alarm in your phone. You use a calendar. You do all these things. So why are you not doing that for your child? Why are you not teaching them, hey, you take the trash out on Mondays and Thursdays, set an alarm so it goes off and make them independent? You do it for yourself. Wow. Why do you not have them have a planner or something to write in or teach them how to use the calendar in their phone? Would you remember to go to all your appointments if it wasn't in your calendar?
Exactly.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
powerful.
I mean, really, we expect
powerful.
children to do more than we do.
That is a powerful insight.
Yeah. And I think that's something that could work for children who are special needs and those children who are not special needs.
Absolutely.
Just any children, any child.
Yeah, because
essentially.
what she's really saying, like even my daughter Lael, she's got one of those Google thing, a Google at her bedside, and so my wife started to set the alarm and teach her how to set the alarm.
Yes.
So if she don't do it, then we have to do it for her. And so now the misconception is because she's young and she's small, she's not able to hear the alarm and wake up. And this is what you're saying in especially with children who don't get those information. So, okay, wake up on time, set an alarm, and get them to see if they're able to do it. If it's one thing if they can't do it.
That's right.
But it's another thing to give them the opportunity
Yes.
Yeah.
to see where they are. And so when you talk about the parent being overbearing, not in a negative sense, but not allowing the child to manifest what they can do. And then you take it from there.
Yes.
And so you can develop, I got it, Ms. Tina. I really got
Think
it.
about it. If they have a
see-
project at school, have them put it in their calendar. When is it due? When are the timelines? Put those things in the calendar. If you make a doctor's appointment, they call and remind you that you have a doctor's appointment. Why do you not expect to have to remind a child that they have a project due?
And so mom or dad will do all of that. And the child will be in the house just a disabled child.
Yeah.
Well, but also, I think sometimes the parents get frustrated. Well, you knew you had a project due on Thursday. Why didn't you get it done? But I'm going to ask you, do you have reminders? Do you have alarms set in your phone? Do you have a calendar to tell you what to do? You do. So why are we expecting children to do more than what we do? Provide them those resources. You asked about middle school and high school. Most of them have a cell phone.
That's true.
Teach them how to use it. Download an app. Find what works for them. It may not be the same thing as what the parent needs, but find out what it is.
Yes. You are really a children's advocate, Miss Tina.
She is.
I can hear it in your spirit. I can hear your enthusiasm for what you do, and the community and the world that you're in. Where did you get that? Where did that come from? I mean, what's your affiliation with who what you're a part of now? Because sometimes there's always some kind of a connection.
There's always a story.
There's a
a story
story
behind the
There's
story.
a story. There's a story. I actually grew up in a drug home until I was 15. I was in and out of the system, and my biological mother, bless her heart, but she was a streetwalker, and I lived in and out of drug homes, and so I had to figure out life. But school saved me. I went to school every day. I had perfect attendance. They fed you twice a day at school.
Wow.
They fed you twice a day. I was going to school
So you're
every
going
day.
to school because you're
I would
getting,
get
you're
on
getting
that
lunch,
bus.
getting lunch and breakfast.
And if you needed something, or a pair of shoes, or if you needed a
Wow.
jacket, the counselor would help you. So I knew school would save me.
And so you had, Pastor, like the word that you used, your destiny helpers. So your
Yes.
teachers and your counselors were essentially your
Yes.
destiny helpers.
Yes.
That really, I would say, put this passion in you for
Yes.
what you do now. For what you do
Yes.
now. And this is ministry.
I actually I felt it. I felt
Yeah.
that. I sensed that passion, and that must be coming from somewhere that's very intimate, very deep, and mean, and connect with you in some area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I feel like you're supposed to.
and that's what and believe it. That's what that's what these children need.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
You need somebody who's not just doing it for a paycheck.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody who's
Yeah.
not just doing it just because they can't wait for Friday or every 2 weeks. Somebody who's doing it even if I don't get that financial satisfaction.
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially in a volunteer
In-
setting like that.
And that's what I was about to say, Pastor. All of these roles that you have, these are volunteer roles, except the KISD. That's your job.
Yes, and now at Garden of Hope, that is more of a job now.
Yeah, yeah.
But it started for 2 years almost with just
With
volunteering.
volunteerism. And so even the 9 boards and commissions that you talked about earlier, we talk about this is all community volunteerism.
Wow.
And this is how we strengthen our community, is by
It is.
truly being a part of the community. When you find your purpose like you
Yes.
did and really work in your purpose, in your calling, and you serve with your heart.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
I
serve with
want
your
to echo
heart.
this for a moment because I feel very passionate about this point. That parents, if you're watching, I believe this is the person that I would want my child
Yeah.
to be under the tutelage of this person that have a heart for what they're doing.
Yeah.
We're in a time now that person is just doing because of desperation. COVID hits, we don't have a job. Just hire me. Just give me a job. And so to have someone in the background at the head in decision making position in areas that you can actually make something happen with the heart for what she does.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I want you to hear this is a very, very good resource for the parents out there that are listening. One of the things I want to ask him, Ms. Mina, is that parents out there who is struggling financially, and they have this child, and one of the intimidations that I can't pay for this, I don't know how I'm going to get out of this because I don't see the money, I don't know how, I got all these bills to pay, and here I have all this weight coming on me. If I reach out to get help, it's going to cost me more that I don't have. What do you say? What do you say to those parents, that population of people that's watching today, that is not able to go out there and just lavish money on what they need?
Yeah. I say reach out to your community. Our community is very generous. Reach out to your churches. Reach out somewhere that you feel connected and safe, because there are people that will help. And, the old saying of closed mouth doesn't get fed, but there really are. Our community has so many nonprofits and so many organizations that you can reach out to and just ask. And I tell people all the time, send me a Facebook message. I'll reply. I'll help you. I'll even guide you to the right place, even if it's not about kids, because you mentioned I'm on all these different boards, but really I bring them all together.
Yeah.
Through Educated Angels, we do a CZAC bowling tournament. Last
So
year.
talk to us about
Oh,
what
okay.
This is yet another program that Miss Capito has started in our community.
Yeah.
And so I want you to talk a little bit about what Educated Angels is and how it came to be.
All right. So Educated Angels is a local nonprofit that basically takes care of children, special needs children, homeless children, and children who want to move forward in some type of secondary education, college, trade school, something. So it was co-founded with Mark and Sybil Shepard and myself, and we started doing an internship program for students who wanted to be teachers. They helped at summer camp, they got a scholarship, and we collected school supplies for the homeless kids. Did you know there's like 1,200 homeless children in Killeen?
I was just saying, I honestly really thinking that.
Yeah. There are
So
over
we're over
1,200.
here on this side, and we're not exposed. We're to that community.
Yeah.
And you are over there seeing all of that and the things that we don't know, the things that we take for granted, the things that we
Yeah.
could have done differently.
You know, the KISD has a HARP program, Homeless Awareness Response Program, that we support. You guys could think of as a church of collecting canned foods. What they do is they give it to the families who have qualified through HARP, meaning that they have qualified as they are a homeless child, and they give them like spring break boxes of food because, you know, those kids go home during spring break. They don't get free lunch and breakfast anymore. They're at home, or Christmas break or summer. And so they're trying to reach out and give boxes of food. And so that's one way that people can help. They have a specific list of items, and you can, you know, donate those items to their HARP closet. They collect school supplies. So Educated Angels hosts a back to school bash every year. And we have a softball tournament to bring in funding to help buy those school supplies for the homeless. Educated Angels is really big about doing things for the community, not just like one school here or one school here. We'll collect and then we give to the HARP program so they can disperse it where they see the need.
Where they see the
Well,
need.
because sometimes there's a school, they're very low income, but every church in town has already adopted them because they knew they were low income. So then
Right.
there's some other schools, no one's really paid attention that they're pretty low income as well. And so we really just strive to help. And so we also have the CZAC Foundation. Sybil and Mark's son passed away, and he had Down syndrome. And so we do a bowling tournament. And so what I was going to say is I connect all of these. So last year, before COVID, we had the bowling tournament. So I put out on social media, who wants to adopt a foster care child to go bowling? So now the foster care children got adopted. People paid $20, and they went and they helped raise money for the special needs kids.
Wow.
And so, although I do all these things, it's really about
together.
connecting
Bringing
and
them
making them. So,
amazing.
somebody was doing a fundraiser for their child, a dance studio, and so I just shared it and said, anybody who wants to purchase these pizzas and cookies, they will go to the kids at the shelter. So basically, if you don't want to buy the Little Caesars pizza, you don't have to buy those pizzas for yourself, but you can purchase, and then it goes to the shelter. And so it's really about connecting and making relationships. So I don't see any of those organizations almost individually sometimes.
Right.
I see them as supporting one another, and together we're always stronger.
Yeah.
Right.
And you
Yeah.
also have a lot of people in the community. You see the same people doing things sometimes. So if you can come together and bring your resources together, we can be more impactful.
Let me ask just for our audience, Ms. Tina, you mentioned the church going to the different churches for help.
Yeah.
That mother with that financial.
Yeah.
What else? Because especially now, you know, with what's happening in the church and all the things that's going on, the transition taking place, it could be because a lot of businesses are going through, churches are going through financially.
Absolutely.
What are other options for because
Yeah.
especially now when you have to be home with that child
Yeah.
Yeah.
and you're getting desperate to the place where it can become life or death situation. That
Yeah.
desperate mother, that desperate father,
Yeah.
that single father, that single mother, that family together. That's the only thing at this time. Not a phone call, not more food, but we need help for our child.
Yeah.
What other option? Where else can they go? Is
You
there
know,
anywhere else in the city?
I think reaching out to the schools, asking for help. I think that there's a lot of these counseling centers that are, you know, free counseling centers or that take Medicaid and other things. And that you really, I think sometimes our pride gets in the way and we have to kind of put that aside to be able to help our child. And so there are times you just have to do those things.
Yeah.
And reach out, and when you're talking to the counselors or the doctor's office or any of them, tell them, I need to do virtual because I can't always bring my child because I have to work or I have
Yeah.
to do those. I think although the COVID has definitely been catastrophic in many ways, it has made us become technology savvy.
Yeah.
It has
Yes.
made families slow down. It made me slow down.
Wow.
I mean, it had really made me slow down. And so, you know, I think those resources will now be provided virtually, and there'll be other ways to do it.
And I want to encourage our listeners and our viewers that just today, Minister Carey, just today I heard an awesome testimony from one of our members, the city manager, Cedric Davis of Marlin, and in the midst of all this is going on, he was able to share this with me today. just to let persons know that there are people out there, communities are doing things for the community.
Yes.
I think he said over 60,000 people in his community, they were able to give $6 off their light bill, of their utility bills. Just that, I mean, 60,000 people,
Yeah.
giving just $6 off
Yeah.
Yeah.
from different grants, different things that they know how. People who know how to write. So reaching out, as you said, you
have to reach
you
out.
got to reach out, and a good place to start is, I would start calling, trying to get a hold of you, Ms. Tina.
So if someone wanted to connect with Educated Angels, Tina, what is the information that they can that you can share for someone to connect with
Yeah.
Educated Angels?
So you can go to the Facebook page, of course, and then also educatedangels.org, and you can reach out to us that way as well.
Okay. And magically, as soon as she says it, educatedangels.org is going to be under her name.
Amen.
So if you want to connect with Miss Capito, if you would like some more resources or practical application, if you have a special needs child, again, she is the KISD transition specialist. You can find her on KISD website, but by all means, make sure you go through your counselor or case manager. Use that proper protocol. If you are interested in working, sponsoring, or volunteering with the Garden of Hope, again, the information is right there for you, and will also be there at the end of the show for you to connect with Garden of Hope. And if you're interested in Educated Angels, that information will be there as well. And Tina, one of the things that, in dealing with children, all of these, we deal with children, but particularly we deal with vulnerable children.
Yes.
Right? In all of these agencies, whether they are children in the foster care system or children who are disabled, and sometimes they're both.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So we know how CPS works. There's a social worker or a case manager who follows the child. Sometimes the length of the case, most times not. Is there somebody who speaks for the child, who
Yes.
represents a child who is in a vulnerable situation, such as foster care or even special needs?
So there are court-appointed special advocates, which is CASA. Sometimes in our community, people confuse CASA because there's a military CASA and they think of house or other things, but it's court-appointed special advocates of Coryell and Bell County. And we are a group of individuals that come together, and we are the voice of a child. We're not interested in what the lawyers have to say. We're not interested in what the parents have to say. We want to know about that child. We want to help them and be their voice, because oftentimes we forget to ask a child, what is going on? Why are you doing that? What is this? What's the problem here?
Yeah.
And so by having a CASA, it's someone who follows their case through, and through that, they get to tell the judge, and they get to, speak up and say, this is what the child wants. This is what their mission is. And so CASA of Bell and Coryell County is a wonderful organization. And like everyone, they have struggled through COVID.
COVID as well.
Yeah.
But CASA is nationwide.
It is. It is nationwide. But we have our own here in Central Texas, but absolutely, it is nationwide. And if you want to get involved, you can reach out. You can be an advocate. Now, I will tell you, if you're an advocate, a lot of times there are people who have a flexible schedule.
So let's back up.
Okay.
You talk about getting involved or becoming an advocate. What does an advocate actually do? Is that everything that you just stated?
Yes.
Is there more? And what is the process
Okay.
of becoming an advocate?
So you reach out to your local CASA office, and you ask for the recruiter trainer, and you get on their list, and they do an interview, and they do background checks. They clear you, then they start a training sessions, and it's about 30 hours of training that they put you through, kind of teaching you how to navigate through the courts and how to, work with CPS and how to do those different things. And then you are given a case, and so the judge has appointed CASA to hear those cases and to be with those children and kind of listen and be there for that child. And so then they follow them through. And so we're always looking for advocates. We need advocates, someone to speak up for the child. COVID has been hard. A lot of advocates have chose not to take cases right now because of COVID. But that doesn't stop that. You said earlier in the show, CPS cases and removals have gone through the roof.
They have.
And so it's very hard. They really they need those advocates. They need a voice for that child. But if like me, I'm not able to be an advocate because I am unable to go to court every Monday because I have a real job in my life and I want to be a professional volunteer.
So wait a minute, so
that.
CASA is not a paid position?
No, it's a volunteer
It's
position.
a volunteer position.
is.
Right.
It is. And so people, when you have a real job, unfortunately, all that's 9 to 5 or 8 to
Yeah.
5, you're unable to usually be an advocate because you have to be able to go to court. And so usually a lot of people are retired school teachers or retired, or like maybe you have your own business, an entrepreneur or real estate or something where you have more of a flexible schedule. It is difficult if you have a job that you have to report to unless you have worked that out with your employer.
I think keeping it volunteer is actually a great thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they
It's
want to be
actually a
there.
great thing, especially someone who volunteer who could have been at work, who could have been doing
Yes.
something else. It's really kind of a help to separate get down to that person
Yes.
who really loves what they
Yes.
What they do.
They're there
do.
because they want to be.
They there and they make their schedule, they make their life fit to give that back to the community.
Yes.
And that's one thing. So I think just hearing volunteering, that's a great way
Yes.
to separate the crowd
Yes.
Yeah.
and to really get to that person who's doing this because they love to do it.
Because
Absolutely.
they love to do it.
They love
Yeah.
to do it.
Yeah.
And if you cannot be an advocate volunteer, you can volunteer and be on the board of directors or volunteer to be on a committee, fundraising committee or outreach committee. There are things, I have a couple of people who volunteer on the outreach committee. All they do is share on social media.
Wow.
They really
Wow.
don't have a lot of time, but they just, every time they see something for CASA, they share it. And it now gives that group of people information about CASA or this group of people. And so there's never too small of volunteering.
Right.
You know, you can always
praise
help. And you just have to help where you feel you can. And maybe that's 10 minutes a day or maybe that's 20 hours a week. I mean, you just have to decide what works for you.
Yeah, Ms. Tina, this is amazing, Minister Kerry, because this old COVID, this old pandemic has caused a lot of people, based on everything that around them, they're shutting down, the businesses are shutting down, doctors' offices are cutting back, everything is cutting back. Something somewhere try to tell them that there's no help out there. There's people are not doing what you're saying that is happening.
Yeah,
But I want to say it sounds like things are still happening.
they are.
You still have to reach out despite
Yeah.
of what's happening around you because people are still working.
Oh,
And that's
they
the
are.
beauty. That's the beauty about persons who are doing things from their heart.
Yes.
And not because COVID comes around, you stop doing what you do, what you
Right.
really love to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
COVID is it only shows up the need
Yes.
to do more of what you do because the
Absolutely.
need has increased.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
The need has increased. The need
Yeah.
for the service has increased. So that's like somebody who have the heart for that.
Yes.
That's their harvest field.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
where
It is.
they not so well. Almost like I don't want you to be homeless, but I'm glad to help you.
Yes.
I don't want you to go in a foster home, but I'm here for you.
Yes.
And so it's a beautiful thing.
It is.
Because we're over here today. This whole our world's coming together.
Yes.
You're telling because I'm not around persons or homeless kids. I'm not around that community of people.
Yeah.
But here you are in the heart of it, and I believe that's how it's been received today. Because sometimes we don't really pay attention to the things that's not in our neighborhood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not in our neighborhood, so we don't worry about it. And we don't know that we can still make a difference. We can step out of our neighborhood, and you might just need to help just next door.
That's right.
Just around the corner, Gardner.
Yes.
It might just be right around the corner
Yes.
that you're helping, but because we're in our neighborhood.
Yeah.
And so I think this is a powerful panel. I
Yeah.
think it's a very powerful show to let persons know that people are still out there.
They
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
People are out there working diligently without pay.
Without pay. Yeah.
Because they're doing something because they love your children. That's amazing.
Yep.
Yes.
And like you said, Pastor, the need hasn't decreased at all.
No.
Right? In fact, the need has actually increased.
Yeah.
And there are different ways to serve.
Yes.
There are different ways. It's not necessarily on the front lines being there, but you said even sharing information is a
Absolutely.
way of service. And so, Tina, just speaking directly out there, any one of these agencies, if somebody wants to partner with you and they don't necessarily live in the Central Texas area, what can they do to be of support to either Educated Angels, Garden of Hope, or CASA?
They can still support financially. They can, like I said, social media sharing and getting the word out there. They can also, even tell others or their churches or different. You never know sometimes when you speak to someone who you may touch or who may receive and say, that's what I need to be doing. For a long time, I used to not tell people I did stuff. And I really would lay low and I wouldn't tell people. And people would say, Tina, you're on all this stuff. And I would really just kind of downplay things. And sometimes I hear people say, oh, well, you shouldn't really just go and take pictures or do this. But in my mind, when you create awareness, you create unity and you bring people together to help one another. So it's not about what Tina did. It has nothing to do with me personally. But if I didn't tell you these things, you may not have known.
I'm sitting right beside you.
That's right. And so that awareness is important. It doesn't mean that we have to be shameful or, take pictures of people directly who are being impacted. But you may see me even post a picture of all the stuff maybe you guys donate. I may not show a picture of the child who received it, but just those things, because if somebody knows, oh my goodness, we need shampoo, and they're a couponer and they have 30 bottles of it at the house and they want to bring it over, they wouldn't have known if somebody doesn't say anything. How do you know that there's a need if somebody doesn't say it? And so I had to get over that a few years ago and say, it's not about me. It is about my purpose, and it's about our community, and it's about our kids. And our kids need a voice.
Yeah.
When persons are desperate, I must say that when you get to the place of desperation, I think there's a place where you lose or should lose pride. I believe, because if you're looking at your child, looking at your situation, looking at your life, and you get to that place of desperate, because when you're desperate for food, you go get it from wherever. People, even for me medically, when I see people who are desperate, who are addicted to drugs or whatever it is, there's something in them to I need to go get what I'm desperate for. So I think that place of desperation, hopefully, not that people will get to the worst or the worst it can ever be, but recognizing that this is desperate, even though I'm not homeless, even though I'm still paying a little bit, but it can get to the place if I don't do something now.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's good, Pastor. That's good. And so if for those of you who are out there, again, we've been talking to Tina Capito, and she has been an amazing source of different resources right here in Central Texas. But in terms of CASA, Court-Appointed Special Advocate, this is a nationwide agency. And so if you would like to serve as the voice of a child in court, and that is a voice of a foster child in court, please make sure you contact your local CASA, Court-Appointed Special Advocate, and become a volunteer to serve a child in your community. If you are interested in serving right here in Central Texas, please do take a look at CASA of Coryell and Bell County right here. Is that correct?
Yep.
All right, and that information will be right here under the screen for you, how you can contact CASA. Become a CASA today. If you cannot, then you can also be a part of the board. There are different committees that you can also serve on. Like Tina said, you could be a part of the outreach committee, sharing a flyer. You can be a part of the fundraising committee. Why? Because everything needs money to run. You can also be a part of Garden of Hope, okay? Again, the information is right here. Make sure you click on it and you can connect. You will be connected to someone who will respond to your email or your phone call so that you can be a positive voice in the life of a child. Ms. Capito, thank you so much for being here today. And I know Pastor has some closing remarks.
And just to add on to what you're saying, especially for our open fire family.
Yes.
It's an opportunity for us getting connected with Garden of Hope. And here is Miss Tina here with us, who has given us direct access to make a difference as a church. The church is a main way of helping, of outreach for Garden of Hope. So it is a pleasure and an honor to be a part of that. So if you're in the church and there's something that I'm just in the church, not really doing something now, reach out to Garden of Hope, reach out to our partner and find out what can we do, what can we do as a church to help.
Exactly.
And you can always use my name. Pastor Coffee sent me to ask you.
Awesome.
Amen.
And definitely, again, for Open Fire and those of you in Central Texas, if you would like to donate, Open Fire has agreed to donate toiletries to Garden of Hope, and that is your shampoo, your conditioner, soaps, deodorant, hand sanitizers. What else?
Really, almost anything.
Almost
Shaving,
anything.
razors, all of that.
Shaving,
Yeah.
razors, all
And they
of
can
those
go on the
things.
website to
Yes, absolutely.
You can go on
Absolutely.
the website to find out. But if you come to Open Fire International Fellowship Church, there will be a box in the foyer marked Garden of Hope. You can drop your supplies off. We will be dropping a box off to the shelter every month. We will be dropping a box. So make sure you bring your toiletries, bring your goodies for the Garden of Hope, and drop them off in the box. You can find me, Minister Frazier, or you can find our production assistant, Miss Kim Brownie, and find out exactly where that box is. Let's drop it in. Let us strengthen our community by truly being a part of the community by giving back. Everyone can do something, right? Everyone can do something. If you have an extra bottle of shampoo or conditioner, go ahead and bring it to church with you on Sunday. Make sure you register for church, but bring it with you and drop it in. All right, Tina, any final words that you would like to tell our community? And once again, as from Overcomers Talk, we would like to thank you for being such an instrumental part of this community, because it takes all of us, but you have done an amazing job over the years, truly strengthening this community by not only being a voice of the child, but being a voice of marginalized populations right here. And so we salute you and we thank you so much. Any final words to our community?
I would just say reach out and find your way to help. You never know when you will need help, and so make sure that you are a blessing when you're able to be one.
Awesome, awesome. Pastor?
And it takes a community to raise one child.
Absolutely.
A community, not just one family. And so I want to just say that it takes a community just to raise one child.
Yeah.
It does.
So anything that you can do, anything that you can do to make a difference in the lives of these children, please contact Miss Tina, and she will be more than happy to tell you how you can be of help.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much for joining us here tonight on Overcomers Talk, where our guest was community leader, Miss Tina Capito. Make sure you tune in next week at the same time on the same Facebook and YouTube live channel for our guest. We have a special guest, one-on-one with Lavalis Hamilton from Free My City. His story, his testimony, and how he survived. Make sure you tune in next week for Overcomers Talk.